Before diving into this incredible story, remember to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. Here, every story has something to say, and you won't want to miss a single one. At just 7 years old, Ethan Montgomery, heir to a vast fortune, met Lily Harper in his neighborhood park. She was a cheerful little girl with sparkling eyes and a smile that could dispel any shadow. A true friendship blossomed between them, but life abruptly separated them when Ethan's family moved to New York. From that day on, Ethan never forgot Lily, his innocent first love, and his heart always seemed to be waiting for her somewhere in the world. 17 years later, Ethan had become a formidable businessman, running the family empire with an iron fist and a keen business sense. Yet no amount of success or wealth could fill the void in his life. He had never found Lily. Determined to see her again, he scours the city, questioning former neighbors and following the few clues he can glean. One evening, at a reception in the family manor, he notices a young woman who catches his eye, unassuming, discreet, working quietly among the guests. His heart sinks. Her features, the gentleness of her gaze, the timbre of her voice, everything reminds him of Lily. But how could fate have been so cruel? She is now a servant in his own family, invisible to the world he moves in. Ethan feels his world crumbling. Torn between duty, social conventions, and the irresistible pull of his heart, he must now decide, reveal to Lily that he has found her again, or simply admire her from afar. But one thing is certain, their childhood story is not over. It is only just beginning. Montgomery Manor shone brightly under sparkling chandeliers, welcoming the city's most prestigious guests. Ethan, impeccable in his dark suit, scanned the room, his mind elsewhere. For weeks, he had been tracking down every possible lead on Lily Harper, and each moment seemed to bring him closer to that childhood memory he had never been able to erase. As he approached the buffet, a silent young woman walked past him, filling trays with hors d'oeuvres. Her face seemed strangely familiar. Ethan froze, scrutinizing every feature, the deep green eyes, the light brown hair falling in soft strands around her face. His heart began to beat faster than he had ever known, a mixture of excitement and disbelief. Lily. It was her. The same innocence, the same light he had known at 7, but tinged with a maturity that made her even more beautiful. The shock rooted him to the spot. She didn't recognize him immediately, focused on her work, polite and attentive to every detail. Ethan, unable to remain silent, approached quietly. Lily. She froze, her trembling hands holding a tray. Her eyes widened in surprise and confusion. Mr. Montgomery, she stammered, unsure whether to smile or remain professional. He felt a wave of emotions wash over him, nostalgia, happiness, but also a touch of bitterness. How could fate have placed the girl he loved at 7 years old, in the position of a servant in his own home? I can't believe it's really you, Ethan murmured, his voice filled with emotion. Lily lowered her eyes, blushing, aware of her situation and the social divide between them. Yet, she felt a familiar warmth fill her heart. Yes, it's me. I didn't expect to see you again. Ethan smiled gently, kneeling slightly to be at her level. No matter the years, no matter the distance. I've found you. In the silent manor around them, amidst chandeliers and distracted guests, an old bond was rekindled. But they both knew this simple moment was fragile. Between Ethan's world and Lily's modest life, an ocean of differences and social conventions still separated them. Yet, that evening, hope was reborn. Their childhood story had never truly died. It had just been reborn. Since their reunion, Ethan couldn't get the image of Lily out of his mind. Every smile she gave while serving the guests struck him as a reminder of their shared past, and he felt a growing urgency. He had to get closer to her, get to know her again, but without breaking any rules. The next morning, the manor was still silent. The servants were busy in the corridors, preparing the drawing rooms and gardens for the day. Ethan, taking advantage of the quiet, went down to the drawing room where he knew Lily often came to prepare breakfast. Lily, he called softly as he entered, trying to hide his excitement. She jumped slightly, a dishcloth in her hand. Mr. Montgomery, you're already up? She asked, her heart pounding. Yes. I wanted to talk to you, if you have a moment, he said with a tender smile. She nodded, surprised but intrigued. Of course. Ethan sat down, looking at her intently. I haven't stopped thinking about you since we met when we were children. I couldn't believe I'd find you here. Lily felt her cheeks flush. She lowered her gaze, aware of the hierarchy between them, but unable to hide the secret joy that lit up her heart. I didn't know you were looking for me, she murmured. Ethan leaned forward slightly. I was looking for you, yes, without ever knowing if I'd find you again. And now that I have, I want to spend time with you. A silence fell, heavy with unspoken feelings. Lily knew she had to remain professional, but her childhood memories, the afternoons spent laughing with Ethan, came back to her with a disconcerting intensity. Sir. She began hesitantly. Ethan gently took her hand, a forbidden but tender gesture. Call me Ethan. Like before. At that precise moment, an older maid entered the room, interrupting them. Lily quickly withdrew her hand, blushing. Ethan sat up, but his gaze remained fixed on hers. They both knew the road ahead would be difficult: society, family, Lily's status as a servant. Everything seemed to conspire against them growing closer. But for the first time in years, they finally felt together, connected by an invisible thread of memories and old emotions. The majestic and imposing manor became the stage for their budding romance, a blend of passion, nostalgia, and challenges to overcome. And as Ethan left the drawing room, he knew he would do anything to protect this bond, even if the whole world seemed determined to tear them apart. The days passed, and Ethan could no longer ignore the place Lily held in his heart. Every encounter, however brief, plunged him back into that emotion he thought he had forgotten. But he knew that their childhood bond wasn't enough. The world around them imposed strict rules, and the difference in social status threatened to shatter this fragile intimacy. That morning, Ethan found Lily in the manor's garden, arranging flowers for the grand reception hall. The sun gently caressed her hair, revealing the chestnut highlights he had so loved. He approached silently, trying not to disturb her concentration. Lily, he whispered. She jumped slightly, but her heart leaped with happiness at the sight of him. Ethan, you're still here so early? She asked, trying to hide her excitement. I couldn't wait. I wanted to spend time with you, talk, get to know you again, he said softly, sitting down on the small bench next to her. Lily hesitated for a moment, aware of the potential stares of the servants and family. But she couldn't deny the old connection that was returning so powerfully. Ethan. I don't know if it's possible. Why not? He asked, his voice filled with quiet determination. It doesn't matter what others think. It doesn't matter what the world around us is like. We have a chance to mend what time has torn apart. At that moment, the invisible barrier of their social difference seemed to dissolve. For the first time in a long time, Lily felt the freedom to simply be herself with Ethan, without a mask or a role to play. But fate had other plans. They had barely exchanged those few words when Ethan's mother, Mrs. Montgomery, appeared in the driveway, watching them with a mixture of surprise and disapproval. Ethan, what are you doing here with Lily? She asked, her voice betraying her concern. Ethan stood up, assuming a protective stance. Mom, I just want to get to know someone who has always mattered to me. Mrs. Montgomery frowned. But, she's a servant here. That's not proper. Lily lowered her gaze, feeling the barrier between them rise again. Ethan gently took her hand, silently defying rules and conventions. Perhaps what's considered proper isn't always right. Mrs. Montgomery's gaze softened slightly, but she knew there would be obstacles to overcome. Family, friends, society as a whole seemed ready to oppose what was developing between them. Yet, despite the fear and tension, Ethan and Lily felt a certainty: nothing could erase this ancient bond. Their story, which began in the innocence of childhood, was ready to face the adult world, with all its rules, judgments, and challenges. News of Ethan and Lily's growing closeness spread quickly through the manor. Servants whispered in the corridors, some curious, others jealous, while family guests watched with a mixture of interest and judgment. Nothing seemed to be able to remain secret in such a vast and watchful house. Lily, though used to working discreetly, felt the weight of the whispers. She tried to keep her head high, but the pressure was palpable at every turn. The other servants avoided her, some even casting envious glances, as if to remind her of her place. Ethan, aware of these tensions, could not remain indifferent. He found her one morning in the kitchen, her eyes downcast, and gently placed his hand on her shoulder. "Lily. I know it's difficult," he said gently. "Sir. Ethan. I don't want to complicate your life," she murmured, tears threatening to rise. He shook his head, his gaze determined. "It's not me you're complicating. It's them. I won't let anyone make you feel like you don't belong." For the first time in a long time, Lily felt she wasn't alone. Ethan made sure she felt protected and valued, even in a world where social conventions seemed to want to keep them apart. But the manor had its own rules and, soon, Mrs. Montgomery summoned Ethan to her office. "Ethan. I understand your feelings, but you have to be realistic," she began, her voice firm but not without tenderness. "Lily is a servant. You are the heir to an empire. If this relationship becomes known, it could cause scandals, and damage our reputation." Ethan looked her straight in the eyes, his voice calm but resolute. "Mom. I can't ignore how I feel. She's Lily, the one I loved when I was 7. Whatever her role here, she's important to me. And I'll make sure she never suffers because of others or our status." Mrs. Montgomery sighed, aware that she couldn't change her son. She knew Ethan was determined, and that no social threat could break this long-standing bond. In the days that followed, Ethan spent more time with Lily, telling her about his childhood memories, his travels, and everything he had experienced since their separation. Each shared moment strengthened their connection, and Lily, despite the whispers and lingering glances, began to dream of a future where their love could exist freely. But the outside world, even behind the luxurious walls of the mansion, continued to whisper. Jealousy, propriety, and prejudice would soon test their bond. The manor was abuzz that evening. A prestigious reception was bringing together clients and business partners of the Montgomery family, but for Ethan and Lily, every smile exchanged, every movement in the room was an ordeal. The whispers about them had grown into louder rumors, and some guests cast judgmental glances at Lily, acutely aware of her status as a servant. Ethan couldn't remain silent. He took Lily's hand as she passed by, drawing everyone's attention. "Lily Harper is an exceptional person," he declared firmly, his voice rising above the hubbub. "Regardless of her position in this manor, she deserves respect and recognition." Silence fell. All eyes turned towards them, surprised by this direct statement. Lily felt a mixture of fear and pride. She never would have believed that Ethan, the ruthless heir, would publicly defend her honor. Mrs. Montgomery, who was present in the room, approached with dignity but without anger. "Ethan. I see that you are determined." Ethan nodded. "Yes, Mom. What I feel for Lily isn't a whim. It's real. And I'm ready to face all the consequences." Lily, moved to tears, felt her heart break free from all the social barriers that had held her back. She dared to look up at Ethan. "Ethan. I didn't know you felt." "Always," he murmured, a tender smile lighting up his face. "No matter the weather, no matter the obstacles." This declaration marked a turning point in their relationship. The guests, impressed by Ethan's courage and Lily's sincerity, began to whisper among themselves, some with admiration, others with jealousy. But nothing could break the bond they had rediscovered. After the reception, in the tranquility of the garden lit by lanterns, Ethan and Lily were finally able to speak freely. "I never want to be separated from you again," said Lily, her voice trembling but firm. Ethan took both her hands. "And you won't be. I want you by my side, not just as Lily Harper the maid, but as Lily Harper, the woman I've loved since childhood and still love today. Lily smiled, tears in her eyes, feeling for the first time that all the years of separation, all the obstacles, finally had meaning. They had led them to each other. The manor, once a symbol of convention and social hierarchy, was now the stage for their rekindled love. Amidst whispers and glances, Ethan and Lily had chosen to follow their hearts. And that evening, in the soft light of the garden, a childhood story shattered by time was reborn, ready to face the world together.